when she would come up with like a song and I would jump in and go, oh man, I love that song. That would happen a lot of times. That happened with Can't Get It Out of My Head because I've just always loved that song. And the whole, that line about I saw the ocean's daughter, that's so Mary Fall. I mean, a lot of those October project songs like Return to Me and were about water.
Midnight on the water, I saw the ocean's daughter.
Good morning, everybody. I'm here with Mark Doyle, who appears on another Mary Fall album, and not only that, but a surround album, 5.1 once again. Mark and I go a ways back at this point.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to try to cut to the chase and just ask you to give viewers who may not be super familiar a bit of your musical history, how you met Mary and became involved with her music. And I'll just give a little bit of your musical history here to start. This is a guitar noir video that I've had for quite some time, and I really enjoy it. So like from my understanding, like part of what you do is you celebrate like very classic and important music, and you write some of your own.
Yes. Yeah.
And you tour, you lead bands.
I do. Yeah. I mean, it all
guitar arrangement. So
yeah.
All right. So that's my understanding, and just would like to get your perspective.
Yeah, sure. Grew up with musical parents. My dad was a great jazz piano player and arranger. So, I got to observe him early on. I was his copyist during the summer, and a copyist is the person that writes out the individual parts for the arrangements. So I learned so much doing that, just in terms of doing clean copies that other musicians could read and understand, and just watching how he voiced things. And so that was tremendous to have that in my upbringing, and also to have two parents that not only was music approved of, but was a pretty honorable profession in my household. And got signed to my first record deal in a band called Juke and Bone on RCA, and when I was late teens. And then I met, after Juke and Bone broke up, met a guy named David Werner, who is still one of my best friends. And we did 2 albums on RCA. And then we did, then I joined a guy named Andy Pratt, who was a fantastic singer-songwriter, and then met a person named Cindy Bullens and did some records with her. Went back and did a record with David on Epic in 1979 with Bob Clearmountain, which is how I met Bob originally. And Bob actually was the engineer on Cindy Bullens' record too. So I knew of him. And then after that, I joined Meatloaf, and Bob mixed the Dead Ringer album. And when I was doing some recording for the Midnight at the Lost and Found album, then Bob called me in to work on Bryan Adams' Straight to the Heart. I arranged the background vocals on that. And so it's all just this long continuum, and finally decided to do my own thing with Guitar Noir. In 1999 was when the first Guitar Noir record came out. And then so I continued to do that sporadically. When the spirit moves me, I actually have a date on September 16th at Cazenovia College. And so years later, 2005, I would guess, I got a call from David Werner, and his manager, Steven Supporta, had just started managing a singer named Mary Fahl, who I was not familiar with. And David said, I've got this concept of doing a classic album from beginning to end, reimagined. And, Stephen just started managing this wonderful singer, Mary Fahl. And would you be interested in co-producing and engineering the record? And I said, where would we do it? And he said, we do it at your house. So I said, okay, I need to meet her because I want to make sure she's not crazy. And if you guys are going to take over my house for a whole summer. So I went to New York and I met her, and she was lovely. And so we, that's how we met. And then as of 2013, I've been her music director, and I also produced her Winter Songs and Carols record.
Really?
So
Okay.
yeah.
Nice. So we've been talking a little bit about Mary's last album that you got involved in. This is From the Dark Side of the Moon. This is, just in all honesty, like one of the absolute gems of my entire surround
Wow.
collection.
Thank you.
And so it's an indie effort, not a major label thing. It came about sort of by miracle, right? Like Bob
Yeah.
Clearmountain had done a 5.1 mix just for his own kicks, and you remembered that, and you were able to pull it out of the archives, sort of, and get it
Yeah.
mastered.
Well, yeah. I mean, at the beginning, Mary was signed to a label called V2, which was a super cool label. They had the Raconteurs and Anna Brun
nice.
and some very, very hip people. And, they came to Syracuse. We had put on, when they found out about the concept for From the Dark Side of the Moon, they said, well, we need to see it live because we want to make sure that you can play it and reproduce it and you can tour with it. So they came to Syracuse, and we put on this show at this little Manlius Pebble Hill Theater. And the president and VP of the label came here, and there was this massive power failure, and all of Syracuse, as soon as we were going to start to play, the whole city was out. I mean, it was the strangest thing. And it was out till about 11 o'clock at night, and they were really getting antsy and wanted to fly back to New York. And
I imagine.
So yeah, we convinced them to stay. And at 11 o'clock, the lights came on, the moon came out, and it was like a miracle. And we did the show, and they signed us on the spot. And so they basically paid for Bob to mix it, and he always does a 5.1. Now he probably does Dolby Atmos as well.
Yep.
Along when he's doing the stereo. And so the only time we heard that was at Mix This in Pacific Palisades, but I remembered it, and I also had a copy of it. And and I went to New York, and I actually mastered the stereo and mastered the 5.1 with Michael Fossenkemper. But for whatever reason, the master for that was lost to the ages. And rather than, I had a DVD audio of it, but in those days, I think you could only render a DVD audio in 48K. So it really wasn't the full Monty, And we didn't want to just make a copy of the DVD audio. So so I went back to New York and, brought my hard drive, which had Bob's original mixes on it. And we remastered it, and she released it herself. Because I should say, one thing I neglected to say was V2 went out of business on the eve of when they were going to release her album. So
naturally.
Yeah, naturally. This happened to me so many times. I mean, I can't even count.
Well, so I'm glad that Bob's 5.1 mix From the Dark Side of the Moon was resurrected. It put me in touch with the album, and I was somewhat familiar with Mary Fahl, but she had no entry in the surround canon, and so that was my major obsession at the time. So you brought Mary's album, to a whole new host of listeners and fans, and so that kind of springs me forward into what I'd like to talk about next. You're now involved with another Mary Fahl album. What has been your role this time?
Excuse me. I'm the producer and arranger, and I play everything except Josh DeCaney from Mary's band plays drums on 8 of the 10 songs. And then I did the other 2 songs are a little more electronic or a little more atmospheric. So I did the programming on that. I also did a lot of programming, excuse me, on all of the songs, but Josh played an actual acoustic drum set on most of it. I did the string arrangements, conducted the strings, and like I say, produced it. So
Well, so let's jump forward. A, a viewer recommended this question. What was recording like? Were you all together? Were you separate? Combination? And you had just mentioned acoustic drums, so that's usually not
yeah,
that's usually not a simple undertaking. So could
yeah.
you just describe recording the album?
Sure. Very intimate. I mean, it was the two of us, and we started in the little room that Dark Side of the Moon was made in, which was basically just, not a very big bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just Mary and I, and basically we would start with a big pot of coffee in my kitchen, and we would powwow and really try to think about the songs we were going to do. And when we came up, it had to be a song that we were both emotionally connected to. And when we found that song, then we would go into the room, and I would usually set up a click and play keyboards, and I would keep it in MIDI, and then we would basically go key by key. We would keep going up a half step, up a half step, up a half step, till we found like the money key for her voice.
Smart.
And yeah, and make sure the tempo, was right.
Yeah, I
And
have
the
good
cool,
enough pitch to have heard listening back to this album that not all the songs are in the original key.
oh yeah,
So that's
yeah,
good to know why that decision was made. That's cool.
yeah. I mean, she's got an unusual voice. It's a, deep, she calls it a contralto, I call it a deep husky alto, and you would think that because a lot of the songs were by male artists, that the key would actually be okay,
Yeah,
uh, but
but
and sometimes it is, but it almost never is actually, so and you have to find that rich resonant area where she just sounds great. Some of the songs like Comfortably Numb, for instance, the verse is so low,
right.
and then it starts to soar in the chorus. So you've got to, sometimes it's hard to find that sweet spot, because the low part could be too low and the high part could be, sometimes the high part sounds a bit thin, and she'll always
Yeah,
go, I sound too girly, so
I thought that was an interesting choice uh, from the Pink Floyd catalog, given that the band practically speaks the verses,
yeah.
in their original version. And the song seems to be, I think it's about Roger Waters getting like a medical injection before a show
Ah,
for pain or anxiety or something. And then he kind of like crafted that into more of a metaphor for some elements of of hardships in life.
yeah.
What was the connection uh, for you and for Mary in picking that song?
I think she came up with it. We knew we wanted to do a Pink Floyd song because we had done From the Dark Side of the Moon,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
we were trying to stay in the. I think Nick Drake may have been, no, the Mamas and Papas were definitely the oldest song. I think that was 1965 or something, right? So we were trying to stay within the mid to late 60s to the mid 70s, okay?
Yeah,
And then I remember when she suggested Comfortably Numb, it was like, we're right on the cusp there. And then I looked to see when it was released, and I think it was released in 1979. So we were still in the 70s, like barely, or it may have been recorded. Yeah, I know. So, but she sounded, as soon as we started it, and we're both sort of big Marianne Faithfull fans.
oh
Mary
nice.
knows her. Yeah. And when she started to do the verses in what I call her Marianne Faithfull voice, I just knew it was going to work great. Uh, and
Yeah,
that's
it
what has
does.
to happen. Yeah, it really does. And the thing, what was sort of magical about this record is that, uh, these initial recordings, I mean, especially like you think about the Mamas and the Papas, they probably did Got a Feeling in 15 minutes. I read Joe Boyd's book, and Riverman, Nick Drake sang and played the guitar live with the orchestra. So Riverman was done in like half an hour.
Wow.
So these records just sort of captured that spontaneity. And in those days, everybody was wide open, everybody was young. When we would listen to those things, we didn't really have this critical filter where we would say, why does this work? Why does that work? They were just going for it.
Right.
And that's what I tried to do with her. I tried to really sort of in a way fake her out that we're just testing these keys for
Mm-hmm.
you. And so she was really unself-conscious and really in the moment, and sort of in that nostalgic frame of mind of when she first listened to it as a kid, and oftentimes with Mary, if you don't do that, then the vocal performance can get really studied. It gets more studied as you go along. And I really didn't want to do that. I really didn't want to finesse every line. And so a lot of these vocals are really the original audition when we were just trying out keys. And some things like the Neil Young song, she only did half of it, and we were like, yeah, that's good, that's the key. And then so when I to answer your viewers question, once we do that basic bare thing, then I'll go to work and build everything around her, which is so different than building a track and then having a singer come in and try to sing over the track,
So
because everything is built around her performance.
the drums were played to the click then?
Yeah.
Whew. Well, kudos.
Oh, I know. Josh
that
is amazing.
Man, that takes an amazing amount of skill.
Oh, he's so good at that, and he just becomes one with the click. And the thing is that when we do our live shows, I mean, a lot of the samples, because I have all the masters, a lot of the samples from Dark Side of the Moon or from Winter Songs and Carols, he plays on Roland pads. And, you've got to be locked into the tempo. So when that pad comes in, excuse me.
Oh, yeah.
So he's really a master at that.
So just talking more about the songs on this new album, Can't Get It Out of My Head, which is aptly titled because I can't get this out of my head.
Right.
It really is yet another very cool record from you and Mary. Could you just talk a little bit more about how the songs were chosen, or maybe your favorite song or two? Just let people know a little bit more about what they can expect here.
Yeah, I mean, we tried a lot of songs, and these are the ones that we ended up with. I wanted to do I Am Waiting by the Rolling Stones because I'm a big fan of the Brian Jones era Stones, as is Mary, that sort of Elizabethan madrigal sort of sound. But Ruby Tuesday was, I found out later, that was actually the first single that she bought as a kid.
Wow.
And yeah. So she really wanted to do Ruby Tuesday. There's more obscure songs, but sometimes, you can be too clever by half and, a couple of, I mean, the only argument against doing Ruby Tuesday was that everybody knows it. So
sure,
that's hard. That's hardly an argument. If you can make it your own.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it is. It is. So that was the reason for doing that. When she would come up with like a song and I would jump in and go, oh man, I love that song. That would happen a lot of times. That happened with Can't Get It Out of My Head because I've just always loved that song. And the whole, that line about I saw the ocean's daughter, that's so Mary Fahl. I mean, a lot of those October project songs like Return to Me and were about water. And so I could immediately picture her doing that. Tuesday Afternoon, I can't remember if I think people had been telling her that you should cover Tuesday Afternoon to be perfect for you, but she couldn't get past the bridge. That in a fairyland of love. I mean, she just thought, I can't sing that. It's too goofy. I'm going to be too girly. I mean, that's her big thing. She doesn't want to sound like a girl, basically. And so we just brainstormed, like, how can we, I guess, mask this bridge? How can we distract? Look over here. Don't listen to these sort of hippy dippy words here. And
right.
So she came up with that Sanskrit chant, which she did a lot of on from the Dark Side of the Moon, and
Mm-hmm.
sang it as low as she could possibly sing. And this chant is like so spooky that when I would solo it, I thought the mummy was going to like appear over my shoulder. But
Man,
you know,
I love it when
yeah,
she does that.
I do too. You know, it's really so cool. And it's not pitched down or anything. I mean, that's actually her voice. And then we just multi-tracked it. And so that became like the favorite part of the song. And then I tried to get her to do all this spoken word stuff, which she's really resistant about. And uh, I said, you know, just, you know, your answering machine when you go, you've reached the voicemail of Mary Fahl, leave a message. I said, just say, you know, just say it like that, you know. And so I basically had her, you know, voice the lyrics. So whatever the lyrics are in that bridge, but in this sort of spooky spoken word thing. And then she was doing rhythmic sort of hi-hat stuff that is swimming all around the speakers and surround. So it made the middle part really trippy in a way that was more arresting than sort of fey and charming like the original record, right?
Yeah, you just mentioned the surround mix, and fortunately for me, I get to talk to Ronald tomorrow.
Yeah, great, great.
So I'm looking forward to like really digging into the mix with him.
Yeah,
And I was
he's a
just so
sweetheart of a guy.
so
You'll
pleased
love.
to see that that you chose him for this project,
Mm.
because he has a pretty impressive catalog, and I get to talk to, you know, an engineer that I've never have. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Um, let me see what personally for you, like what were your coolest like musical moments putting this album together? I know that you love guitar, of course.
Hmm.
Mary plays some of the guitar.
No,
Okay,
no,
it's all you,
it's all
all
me.
Mark.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. So what were your coolest jams? Like what was in it for you?
I actually got away with 3 guitar solos on a Mary Fall album, which is like uh, yeah. So the guitar solo "Uncomfortably Numb," you know, I enjoyed that, and I try to do my guitar solos the same way. Like I'll just do 3 or 4 spontaneous takes
Yeah.
and just try to capture whatever I can, and then comp them together, and you know, sit there with sort of a chart and say, you know, take 3 has a really good section here, and
Yeah.
sometimes I'll actually have to move sections to other, you know, it's over the same chord back here, but it would work up front, and so that becomes cerebral. But the initial performance is emotional, which is important, you know. So yeah, I enjoyed that. I'm trying to think. Oh, Don't Let It Bring You Down also has a Ghost of Mick Ronson guitar solo. So
Yes.
I enjoyed that. The string arrangements I always love, and, you know, and especially the more avant-garde strings like on Tuesday Afternoon. Um, love that. You know, I've got a great group of string players here in town that I finally settled on, and they do, you know, the Guitar Noir records with me. They did Mary's Winter Songs and Carols, and you know, they did this record. So yeah. Oh, you know, the great Valerio, I really had a blast because just and I remember there was some resistance. Well, she wanted to do the song. I had never heard the song, and she was so you know, sort of maybe gun shy about how reverent the Linda Thompson vocal was, and I had never heard it, so I said, "Don't worry about it, you know. I mean, just be you." And she's like, "I'm going to get killed. People are going to compare me," and I said, "They're not, you know."
I
And
was
then as
super excited when I saw that there was a Richard and Linda Thompson entry.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
love
So
them.
oh, me too. But anyway, so then when I went, I really wanted to do one of the tracks that sort of saluted from the Dark Side of the Moon, you know, that vibe and stuff. So as I was working on the track, she's going, "It's too electronic. It's too, you know, it's got to be more organic." And I said, "No, it doesn't. You're the woman that did From the Dark Side of the Moon. Damn it, you know." I mean, just so I finally sold her on it. But that was, you know, it wasn't all easy. Let's put it that way. You know, I mean, and getting us to agree somewhere in the middle about things was. Sometimes was challenging. Most of the time, it was just it was super easy in terms of our viewpoint and what we wanted to present for the songs.
So I think we're getting close to the end of our time.
Okay.
You know, my attention span, viewers' attention span, we're probably approaching that sweet spot. So I wanted to just ask, like, what can we expect coming from you in the future, either from yourself, Guitar Noir, Mark Doyle, Mary
Mhm.
Fahl, surround, stereo, mono, whatever, live,
Yeah.
studio? What does the future hold?
Well, the future is always open for me. I tend to take it as it comes. I made a great record with my old friend Joe Whiting called Down in the Dirt. He was my original partner in Juke and Bone, and we did a pandemic record of all original material. Like I say, I've got a Guitar Noir show coming up. Mary intends to eventually do Dolby Atmos and vinyl for this record, and she's hired a whole PR team and she's got a great team around her. So you should really start to see a lot more social media stuff and promotion for this. We've got a lot of dates coming up with her, with the band, and I'm really, the end of July, our rehearsals start for that. And just putting it together with a group of people playing it live uh, is always wonderful, really, because something that started with the two of us to just get it out there and see how the music speaks with real people playing it. That's not that we're not real people, but
So I have a standing commitment with one of my besties that if Mary comes and tours close to where I live near San Francisco, or close to where he lives near Fort Lauderdale, that one or the other of us will fly out to
oh,
see the
great.
show together. So I in the past or maybe because of the pandemic, like she's tended to tour pretty close to her home.
Mhm. She
How
does
how
solo shows. Yeah, she gets. I mean, she plays Colorado. She plays Los Angeles, Santa Monica,
okay.
but they're all solo shows. So her goal, I mean, with this record and with all of the PR people that she's got working, her goal is to basically be able to tour with the band. Um,
Wow.
but
Okay.
in order to do that, you've got to go up from 300 seat theaters to 600 seats, and you've
Yeah.
got to just be able to pay for it.
Well, I can vouch for 2 of those seats
All right, great. Yeah, that's a
if she
start.
gets close enough.
Yeah.
Well, very cool, Mark. I've absolutely enjoyed talking to you once again. I intended to kind of stitch together the 3 interviews, you and Ronald and Mary, but I may have to split them all out onto their own because this has been very rich, and I think it might have a good standalone appeal.
Cool, cool. Well, thank you so much, Mike, and give my regards to Ronald. Mary was just here for the last 2 days doing videos, and
Yeah, hopefully you guys had a
so
blast doing that.
yeah, it was great. Yeah,
So, final thoughts. What would you most like to impart to viewers about this album?
I hope that they get the same. I mean, the whole idea of this record, the times were so confusing and so challenging with the pandemic, and both Mary and I experienced sort of personal losses during, not pandemic related, although I did a few of those. But
Oh, I did.
so yeah, yeah. So and her whole thing was that people really need the comfort of nostalgia. I mean, just to be able to look back at a happier time
Yeah.
and to resonate with their what I call their ideal selves. Your youthful, unfiltered self, where everything was promising. And I would hope that people get that from this record, that warmth, that, when you talk with Ronald, you'll hear how he just, he gets everything like a warm blanket surrounding you, and I would like that. I would like the record to be a comfort to people and harken back to happier times. And also I hope people will appreciate the love and the creativity that went into it.
Well, you all definitely nailed that comforting vibe. That's one thing that I knew, like just from listening before you and I even talked about some of Ronald's approach to mixing. Like I just felt so chilled out, like
Yeah.
putting this record on. I just felt like I've got to stop what I'm doing. I'm just gonna like sit Indian style on the floor and just like
Mm.
just felt like just so like, and then it was over like too quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always a good sign.
Yeah.
So you guys nailed that. So I'm so grateful that you all have put out another effort. Super excited to hear about the possibility of Atmos and vinyl too,
I know.
because
Yeah.
man, I as much as I obviously love surround music, there's just this connection that comes from owning that vinyl and putting it on,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
which
Great.
you know very, very well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, my friend. Well, I appreciate you chatting with me and Life and Surround viewers. And until we get a chance to speak again, uh, keep doing what you do,
Thanks, Mike.
and we'll be here to enjoy it and support you.